Well, hello, this is season 3, episode 132. My name is Misheard with Misheard Songs podcast, and we're doing our first ever Johnny Nash misheard song lyric. The misheard song lyric is, I can see clearly now the rain is gone. And the correct lyrics is, I can see clearly now the rain is gone. Hey, so coming from the Northwest, so I'm here in the Northwest part of the United States, and I know a thing or two about rain. And so growing up, this is a song that I always hear throughout my life. And then of course, I'll share some of the other instances where it was covered, used as an actual commercial. And so this has been a song that just keeps coming back and forth, but I didn't know all the behind the scenes of it, who wrote it, who made it popular, what movies it was in. So I'm hoping that what I share today will be some new things that you didn't know about as well. So let's begin. So I Can See Clearly Now is a song written and originally recorded by American singer, like I said, Johnny Nash. It was a single from his album of the same name, and it actually achieved pretty good success in the US and the United Kingdom, and it was released in my birth year, yes, 1972, 50 years ago. Can you believe that? It reached #1 on the US Billboard Hot 100 and Cashbox charts. It also reached #1 in Canada, so the Canucks loved it, and South Africa. I love the duality there. The song had been covered, like I said, by many different artists through the years, including a hit version by a Lee Towers that reached #19 in the Dutch Top 40, whoa, in 1982, and another recording that is very famous for some of us youngins, by Jimmy Cliff for the 1993 motion picture soundtrack for the movie Cool Runnings, about the Jamaican bobsled team that peaked at #18 at the US Billboard Hot 100 in 1993. So before we get into the song itself and all that jazz, let's talk about Mr. Johnny Nash, or as he was born, with the name of John Lester Nash Jr. He's a junior. He was born on August 19th, 1940. He's a Leo, and unfortunately, he left this earth back on October 6, 2020. Again, he was an American singer-songwriter and best known for this 1972 hit. He primarily was a reggae and pop singer, although he was not born in Jamaica. So he was able to, do well in this genre, but he actually was born in Houston, Texas. He actually also helped some artists, in this genre flourish as well. So I'll share with you that in a bit. He was the son of Eliza Armstrong and, of course, senior John Lester Nash. He sang in a choir at a Progressive New Hope Baptist Church in South Central Houston as a child. And then beginning in 1953, he actually started singing R&B covers on a local TV show called Matinee, becoming one of the few black faces on the screen. And then Matinee being at a local variety show on a station called KPRC TV. From 1956, he sang on Arthur Godfrey's radio and television program for a 7-year period, so he did quite well, so that helps. So let's talk about his career. Nash signed with ABC Paramount and made his major label debut in 1957 with the single A Teenager Sings the Blues. He had his first chart hit in early 1958 with a cover. Remember, I shared earlier, covers was what got him in the mainstream, when he did a cover of Doris Day's A Very Special Love, and was marketed as a rival to then young also Johnny Mathis. You might have heard of him, with hits like Chances Are, and his many, many famous Christmas songs and albums. So Nash also enjoyed success as an actor. He, in his career early on, appeared in screen versions of playwright Louis S. Peterson's 1959, I think it's, screen version, so it's on the screen, called Take a Giant Step, so he did that. He also won a Silver Sail Award for his performance from the Locarno International Film Festival. Nash also continued releasing singles on a variety of labels, such as Groove, Chess, Argo, and then Warner Brothers. Did you know that he also was famous for singing the theme song to a syndicated animated cartoon series called The Mighty Hercules? He sang that, which ran on various television stations from 1963 to 1966. Johnny Nash, you're a Renaissance man. So let's go back to the song. So Nash's 1972 reggae-influenced single, I Can See Clearly Now, sold over 1 million copies, and was awarded a gold disc by the RIAA in November of 1972. And remember, youngins, that means no downloads. I mean, people physically had to drive, walk, take a bus, ride a bike to a record store to actually buy this album. So, and he sold about 1 million of them, so that's amazing. The song itself reached #1, like I shared earlier, on the Billboard Hot 100 on November 4th, 1972, and stayed at the chart for 4 weeks, spending the same 4 weeks atop the adult contemporary chart. Then, I Can See Clearly Now album includes 4 original Marley compositions. That's Bob Marley, for those of you who caught that. So he did some workings with a young, not well-known Marley at that time. And it did quite well. Compositions published by JAD, or J-A-D. One was Guava Jelly, Comma Comma, You Poured Sugar on Me. Oh, not the Def Leppard version, but his version. And the follow-up hit, Stir It Up. There Are More Questions and Answers was a 3rd hit single taken from the album. So he did some collaboration with Mr. Bob Marley. And then Johnny Nash was also composer for the Swedish romance film Want So Much to Believe. So also Johnny Nash was also a composer of the Swedish romance film Want So Much to Believe in 1971, in which he portrayed a character named Robert. The movie soundtrack, partly instrumental, reggae with strings, no surprise, was composed by Bob Marley and arranged by Fred Jordan. So there's Mr. Marley's work too. Unfortunately, the record company that they worked with, JAD or JAD Records, did not exist as of 1971. It ended, but it was revived in 1997 by American Marley specialist Roger Steffens and French musician and producer Bruno Blum for the complete Bob Marley and the Wailers 1967 and 1972 10 album series, for which several of the Nash-produced Marley and Tosh tracks were mixed or remixed by Blum for release. In the UK, his biggest hit was the song Tears on My Pillow, which reached #1 in the UK singles chart, and in July of 1975 for 1 week. He also did a cover of Sam Cooke's Wonderful World in 1976 and Let's Go Dancing in 1979 for many years. So just imagine, he did, so well with I Can See Clearly Now in 72, hits here and there, and then he just seemed to have dropped out of sight. It says here from the internet, he had a brief resurgence in the mid-1980s with the album called Here Again, came out in 86, which was preceded by the minor UK hit Rock Me Baby. And like I mentioned earlier, younger audiences like myself at the time were introduced to Nash's music with the appearance of Jimmy Cliff's cover of his song, the one we're talking about, I Can See Clearly Now, in Disney's 1993 hit film, Cool Runnings. And the cool thing I love about that movie and Cool Runnings is there is also comedic genius who's also passed away, is John Candy. So it's a great movie if you haven't seen it. And then Nash's original version of the song also appeared over the opening scene of John Cusack's 1997 film, Grosse Point Blank. That I did not know, and there's more to come in a bit. So then in May of 2006, Nash was singing again at Sugar Hill Recording Studios and at Tierra Studios in his native Houston, Texas. While working at the Sugar Hill Recording Studios, Chief Engineer Andy Bradley and Tierra Studios' Randy Miller, he began the work of transforming analog tapes of his songs from the 1970s and 1980s to Pro Tools digital format. So he was smart enough to know, I want to keep the integrity of these songs, so let's move them over from that version to this type of version with digital formatting. So again, I mentioned earlier he was in acting in some credits. They say he has 4 acting credits in film and television. Like I said, I mentioned earlier in 1959, he had the lead role as Spencer Scott in Take a Giant Step. He was also one of the first Black family films written by a Black writer. Okay, I didn't know that about that, Take a Giant Step. In 1960, he appeared as Apple alongside Dennis Hopper in the crime drama Key Witness. And like I think it said earlier, in 1971, he played Robert in the Swedish romance Vill Sagarna Tro. Sorry for those of you that speak Swedish. That was the name of the movie, I believe. And then, like I said, he had died peacefully of natural causes in his home. It sounds amazing. Surrounded by his close family in Houston on October 6, 2020, after they said a period of declining health. He was 80. So let's talk more about the song again. So after Nash wrote and composed the original version, he actually recorded it in London with members of the Fabulous Five Inc. and produced it himself. The song's arrangements and style are both heavily laced with reggae, no surprise influences, and of course, like I said, his early collaborations with Bob Marley, and his approach drew strongly from Marley's reggae style. After making modest chart advances for the month, the RIAA certified gold single unexpectedly took only 2 weeks to vault from number 20 to number 5 to number 1. Like I said earlier, was number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 on November 4th, 1972, as well as the same time at the Adult Contemporary chart. I did mention it's been covered many times, but of course the famous one is by Jamaican reggae singer Jimmy Cliff. And it also, let me see here, it says Cliff's first single to make the Hot 100 in 25 years and his highest charting single in the US with that song in 1993. The song also reached number 1 in France, Iceland, and New Zealand. The music video for this version was directed by Academy Award nominated film director Scott Hamilton Kennedy. So let me share with you some cool things that I found from songfacts.com. So I think I mentioned earlier, this is how I remember the song. I thought it was Windex. It's actually Windex's competitor Glass Plus. They used this song for their jingle in the late 80s to promote their window cleaner. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. Perfect. And then some people have said they thought this song was about suicide. I had no idea that was even a thought. But people have said over and over, it's not about suicide. It's actually a song of hope and courage for individuals who have experienced adversity in their lives but have overcome it. That I can see as well. Again, this is also because of its reggae influence, was the first reggae song to hit number 1 in the Hot 100, like I said, where it stayed for 4 weeks in 1972. The next, they say reggae-ish song to top the spot was Eric Clapton's cover of Bob Marley's, no surprise, I Shot the Sheriff in 1974, followed by, I didn't even think of this as being reggae, but yeah, now that I hear the beat, it's Blondie's Tide is High in 1981. That's the next reggae-esque song that made it in the top Billboard. And then there was also some story that was floating around that Nash wrote the song while recovering from cataract surgery, but there's no evidence that this is true per songfacts.com. Although his publicity people would sometimes, they say, embellish a bit to create talking points. And one press release even claimed that when he was a baby, he cried a song in the crib. That would be amazing if that was true. And then I mentioned earlier, he was featured in Cool Runnings, Grosse Point Blank, but it was also used in the movie Thelma Louise. I'll have to check that out when I see that again. And then 2 more things. On November 12th, 1977, so 5 years after it hit number 1, Ray Charles actually performed the song when he was in musical class on Saturday Night Live at that time, which is great because, as you know, he is blind, but I love that he's singing this song because even though he's blind, he can still sense things, see things, so he sang it. And then the fashion part of me loves this tidbit. It also was written that Nash himself adopted a new look with his move to reggae, ditching his sharp suits for stylish denim and more progressive fashion. You go, Johnny Nash. So hopefully you learned a lot. I did. It's not about a gal named Lorraine is gone. It is the rain is gone. And he did a lot. And who knew that his influence of this song and others and his collaboration with Bob Marley, that's huge. It will live forever. So hopefully you learned a lot. I did. And all I can say is please keep singing those songs wrong. Bye.